Greetings, everybody, and welcome again to another podcast series where we're talking to a number of different partners. In the previous episodes, we spoke to private sector, civil society. If you haven't watched those episodes, I encourage you to watch them right here on our UN Lesotho channel. And today we turn to traditional leadership, which is not a new concept for Lesotho and has been guiding the nation for many decades since the founding of the nation. I am Rudumetse Russell, and today I'm joined here by Mufumahadi Ponso Suwehla Matiadira, the principal chief of Beka, Tigwani, and Kobere, as well as Ganatolo Matiadira Seiso, the principal chief of Mokotlong, and Miamanda Kozimukwashi, the UN resident coordinator. Now, before I begin my questions to my panelists, Lesotho, I think, is one of those countries in the region whose chieftainship still remains recognized and deeply entrenched in governance structures and community life. And I think at a time where many traditional systems in the region or elsewhere in the world are beginning to be questioned, sidelined, and even sometimes politicized. And so I think Lesotho's experience offers a really good lesson in legitimacy, continuity, as well as social cohesion. So I'd just like to know from your perspective, what do you think has been the enduring role of chieftainship in holding communities together? I mean, since the time of King Moshoeshoe I.
Yes, Nati. I think the issue is it's due to the customs. Our culture is the one that help us, Basotho, to have some trust on the chieftainship. And also, it's another way of maintaining peace and stability within the country because the chiefs are on the grassroots and they don't change after a certain term. They are there permanently. That's why we still have, and let alone that Lesotho is a kingdom, so we still have that the role that is played by the founder Moshoeshoe. So we are trying to maintain that.
If I can just add there, I think it's historical. Maybe African traditions was always centered around traditional authority. And the founding of the Basotho nation is very much around traditional authority. And all the years, that has been a central figure in bringing the nation together. So, the development of politics and everything else, they've tended to be more, what's the word? Not bring the opposite of bringing the people together. What's the word? Yes, that word. And I think chieftainship has been able to stay there, that Morena belongs to everybody and it's supposed to equally treat every Mosotho in it. But I think it's just carrying on from that culture that founded the nation, and we are trying to uphold that same principle.
I think, can I?
Yes.
I think in my observation, there is probably something that I would like to add to what Marina have said, which is one thing that I've observed in Lesotho is that communities, people are so intertwined with the traditional leadership system. When you want a reference, you can go to your chief. When you want to open a bank account, you can get a reference from your chief. The chieftainship, when it works well, they know almost your history of your entire family from generation to generation. And I think in other countries, to me, where we have chieftainships, sometimes you find that actually that unity with the people has been removed, right? And chieftainship has become just ceremonial. Whereas in this country, what I have seen is that it's not just ceremonial. It's part and parcel of the thinking, the conditions when people are not happy and they attend the pizzos that are still happening in the different areas. All those are about those traditional structures. I think for me the question is well, before I get to the question, somehow the country has managed to have an electoral system, working side by side with the traditional system. And at the top of both those is the monarch as the head of state. And somehow the traditional and the statutory are working hand in hand to create a democracy that has been functioning. It's been rocky, but it's been functioning, right? And I think it's something to be really proud of, and something not to throw away, but to look at continuously enhancing and making it work well. That's what I've seen. And especially when I've been, engaging with the principal chiefs, but also even just with the area chiefs and the village chiefs.
Okay, Mia. And when you talk about the fact that communities here are so intertwined almost with the chieftainship, and often I think traditional leaders are often the first point of contact when anything happens in the community, be someone has been abused, there's some conflict that needs to be resolved in the family. And I'm wondering, what support as traditional leaders do you feel you need to sort of strengthen this protection system and access to justice for people at the community level?
It's a loaded question as to me. It's a loaded question in the sense that when you look at the chieftainship of Moshoeshoe's time, it had resources that went with making things happen. What the electoral system has tried to do is basically take resources away from chieftainship and put them, I guess, into central government. So now you find that, yes, a lot of issues come to your table. You cannot necessarily deal with them. What you can still do is open doors for people or make sure they're known at the right offices. But you don't necessarily have the resources yourself to actually deal with them. And that's probably been, as I said, as the years have gone by, each I would say it's a fight for power. Everybody takes something from chieftainship, puts it into the political sphere, so to speak, and that has tended to weaken, I think, the functionality of chieftainship.
But I wonder that right now, when the world, in many parts of the world, we see a lot of conflict, we see a lot of peace that is not being safeguarded. And looking at the role of chieftainship here, that perhaps even with all those changes in terms of resource challenges and so on, the role of chiefs in stability, I think, May, you talked about that, in ensuring stability on the ground, perhaps is more important now than ever before. We have, we have young people who are unemployed. And some of them, it's not because they didn't go to school. Their family sacrificed, they went to school, they went to college, but there are no jobs, right? So they have come back home. You have major issues of violence in communities. You have issues of nutrition, for example. Only this morning, I heard a statistic around 30% in terms of malnutrition, stunting in the country. So I think that this is probably the right time to see how chiefs can be strengthened and supported to be able to address some of those things, but working in partnership with local government and with central government, right? Because I don't think that the chiefs, the way the structure of the country is that you need to work together, right? The chiefs have got their own role, and government has got its own role. But it's not about working in silos. It's about coming together and saying, okay, we're both interested in the well-being of this community. As a chief, I see them every day, especially if you're a village chief, because you live there, you're there with them. So I see them every day. I see what is happening. They come to me, and sometimes I'm not able to help them. So how can you support me to be in a strong position to support them, right? And to help them, so that they can still feel that when we go to our chief, we can get the support that we need. Even if it means that I'm saying, okay, we need to talk to local government, I will go and talk to them, or I will invite them to come here. So how, I think there's a new hybrid, isn't it, that needs to happen. I think those are my thoughts. I don't know that.
No, man, I agree with you. You know, as much as I talk the resource challenges, why does chieftainship still work even without the resources? It's in the people. For whatever reason, the people still believe in the institution, and I think if chiefs maintain the integrity of the institution, it still becomes a useful platform. As I say, it's supposed to be a unifying platform about so too that everybody can go to that chief and they know they'll be dealt with fairly. Whereas the political system has tended to be more divisive, and a lot of Lesotho's issues have stemmed more from the political system. And I think deep down in people's hearts, they value that role. When things need to be done, at least you know that you can go to the chief and talk things out, and hopefully there'll be some remedy. Even if I lack the lack of resources, it's a soft power that I can't quite explain, but it's there, and as I say, it lives in people's hearts. As the chieftain belongs to the people.
But I'm just thinking, and maybe a question for me, for both of you is, I think you said, you used the word integrity, the integrity of the institution. And is it fair to say that it's not always the case that all chiefs maintain that integrity of the institution, and therefore it impacts on people's trust and confidence in the institution?
Yes, it's couple.
Yeah, it's true, man. But we have to look at the contributing factor to lead that leads to that point, because some out of anger or frustration of not having resources to be able to provide with services, so they end up they take their frustration to they opt to alcohol, or else they don't do their duty day in day out. They are not available, so they try to get another. Even their wages, it's very low, so they get frustrated because they work 24 hours. So that's where another thing can come up. Others, that it differ from people to another.
If I can just add, chieftainship is a privilege and a burden to those who are in it. So on one angle, you've got a lot of privileges, and a lot is expected of you. But as I say, there are a lot of challenges that are thrown at you. You know, from the morning you wake up, people are telling you problems. Normally, when things are going better, when things are going good, it's my biggest complaint that they'll tell me to go when there's a war, but when there's peace, leave me at home. So things are going good. You're not necessarily invited, but when there are problems, you're the first point of call to help with the problems, and it weighs on you. As Mepunso says, some chiefs end up alcoholics. We've got a lot of social problems within the institution itself. Uh, it could be just the individual people, but I also suspect it's also the expectation or the weight of the role itself that plays a part of that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It
It's
is.
both a privilege and a burden. And perhaps sometimes people out there just see it as a privilege. And maybe burden, it's a duty. It's a duty, you know. And somewhere in the process, it would be good to get to a place where the duty became something that one loves, right? But it's also interesting that you say when things are going well, you're not invited. But maybe that's the way that's
That's the
just
nature of the game.
yeah, that's the nature of the role, right? That maybe when everything and everybody's at peace and you're not being caught, that's okay, because it's a symbol that, you know, there's good business that's happening. People are happy, people are okay. But I think for me, it's when there are challenges and that ability and capacity of the chief to then make a difference. I think that's what needs to be supported.
Yes.
Mm.
Memponso spoke about working together. You also mentioned that, and Dadatola as well. And from the UN's perspective point of view, I know that the UN in Lesotho rather has been very deliberate in working with traditional leadership, including them in peace building issues and governance issues. Why does the UN consider traditional leadership to be so crucial?
That's a good question. And I think when you go in any country, understanding the social fabric of that country is important, or rather, understanding the social structures, understanding how people engage, who they are, is really critical. So, who are Basotho? What is important to them? Okay. And I'm not just talking about, it's important to them that they have food, it's important that they have good health, that they have education, they have good access. Yes. But, there's also who we are as a people in terms of our identity and what matters. And when you come to a country like Lesotho, you have to understand and appreciate that the traditional structures, it's a thread that runs through the DNA of the country. The UN, we are here to work on issues of development, to support in times of humanitarian emergencies. We are here to work on issues of the enjoyment of human rights. And we are here to really support and accompany not just the government, but the people of Lesotho. And the people of Lesotho, for me, includes the traditional structures. I think you have government, and in terms of government, you have the executive, you've got the judiciary, you've got the legislature, you've got the private sector, you've got civil society. That's not the full picture. Without the traditional structures, the picture is incomplete. Because all these other groups that I've spoken about, when they go to Mohotlong or when they go to Mohale's Hook, they still need to go to the chief and talk to the chief. And I think the best way for me to describe it is if you want to know who the most vulnerable people are in a village, go to the chief.
Yes.
The chief will tell you, I have 7 elderly women who live up the mountain. I have got so many people who are disabled here. The chief will probably know them by name. They will probably tell you
The family and how they got there.
yes, the family and how they got there. So if we are talking about leaving no one behind, because that's what we're about as the United Nations, that our work is there to ensure that nobody is left behind. And that's a phrase that, people might say, what does it mean? It means that development has to be inclusive. We are not dignified until everyone around us has got dignity, right? And extreme and abject poverty is not dignified. When our children are dying of malnutrition, That is not good. That's leaving people behind. When women are experiencing violence against their bodies mentally, that is not, leaving no one behind. So I think to answer your question, really, it's the UN believes that in order for us to ensure that development is inclusive, it is progressive and transformative, that we have to work with all sectors of society. And at the very foundation of the Basotho nation is chieftainship. And therefore, we have to work with the chiefs. Together with the work that we do with government, private sector, civil society, faith-based organizations, and everybody else, the youth, and so on. That's what I think and believe.
No, I support what Mayor Amanda says. I think when you're trying to deal with society, it's like any case that you hear in your local court. There are many different views, different people giving you different angles on the same problem. So it's good that the UN takes the approach that I need to talk to all stakeholders, because each stakeholder comes at it from a different angle of why that problem exists or how we can solve that problem. And that allows for an inclusive, I think, or I like to think, a better approach in doing things. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think it's if you look at it from a lens of interest, how am I going to say this without different stakeholder groups have got different interests, right? I would like to believe that the chiefs, because at least when we go out there to talk to them, they'll tell us that our people have no water. They're not talking about, I don't have water. They're saying our people have got no water. They need water. They're saying that, the road is bad and it's dangerous for our people. So I would like to really believe that their interests predominantly, maybe not always, but a lot of the time, is about the community that they serve. So you are able to hear those things. Of course, you hear also the politics and all the other issues, but you can sieve those and leave the politics to the politicians, yeah, and take the development issues and actually hear that actually what they're telling us is that, these are the challenges for the people in this particular community. So how do we work with them?
If I can just add, the role of the chiefs is to talk truth to power, really. So it doesn't matter which party or who in particular is the person that you're talking about. Your role is to tell the truth of your people as you see it at that point in time. That's why I say, from a UN perspective, them talking to all the different stakeholders, somebody will come with a dissenting view that might end up being the actual view.
Yeah. It's important for us to hear the voices. Yes, yes. It's important because our work has to be based on evidence, on facts, on the real life experiences. And how can you know what those real life experiences are if you're not talking to all the different stakeholders?
Exactly. Dada Cholo, when you say truth to power, right? In many dialogues, including those led by His Majesty, I think it's been highlighted that young people are so key to the future of this country. Yet also, I know that a lot of young people in Lesotho are struggling with identity. There's so many frustrations, unemployment, GBV, they're being abused. We're also exposed to the internet. Technology is rapidly changing. How do you speak that truth to power to young people so that they don't lose their sense of identity of who they are and sense of responsibility as Basotho people?
It's a difficult question. I think one of the things that we've been highlighting to government is the importance of history. As you know, history is taken out of it. Our schools don't teach history anymore. So a Mosotho child doesn't know where his parents are coming from. We don't know our history. history roots you. History helps you get to know yourself. So, yes, the frustrations of young people are there. I can't really answer to that, but in terms of grounding them, that is probably the role that we need to be playing a bigger part of. And part of that is letting them know who they are, so that when they watch that YouTube or wherever, or see American culture, whatever culture, they're able to say, yes, that is your culture, my culture is this way. What you're finding in our kids right now is that they don't know their culture. When you talk to the old Mosotho guy, he told you his whole umang, his
Yes.
whole family tree. He told you exactly who he is. We don't know. We can't do that. We're losing that part, and I think it's one of the things that chiefs, as the custodians of culture, need to figure out a way of bringing that back. But one of the important things is that history has to go back into the classroom. They say that everybody's focusing on STEMs and, I guess, more the scientific sort of classes in school, and we're losing the part of knowing yourself. It's a psychological thing, but it's a very important thing. You can't build on something that you don't that the foundation is wrong. So yeah, not quite answering your question, but
No, it helps partly.
It's interesting because this brings us to King Moshoeshoe I, the founding father of Lesotho, and I just find him and his history to be very fascinating. I think you've heard me speak about him many times, because I think that he embraced the concept of peace, unity, and inclusion in a very real and tangible way that brought very different groups together and created this Basotho nation, right? And I think it's a piece, it's an offer that Lesotho should give to the world, right? We go and study degrees, research to just understand the concept of peace. And yet the foundations of this nation are on the basis of that. Somehow, I think that needs to, like Ndate is saying, it needs to be passed on from generation to generation. And yet still, I think Tumi's question for me is difficult, because what do you say to a young person who, one, she's a young woman, she is 16 years old, has 2 children from her father, okay? Because the father forced himself on her. She has had to quit school because of that. She cannot get employment, right? Or what do you say to a young man who went to school, finished, couldn't get a job, has come back home, and things are just difficult? What do you say to an elderly woman? I know you're talking about young people, but what do you say to, elderly women who are seeing the children not able to actually either get gainful employment or find business opportunities for themselves? And I think that's a question that really the chiefs need to engage in, if I may say so. That it's not everybody that is going to go and apply for a job and be employed. I think in our villages we need to start looking at yes, these projects, looking at innovation, looking at skills development, engaging with other programs like the Sibabatso, like skills development, and really having that conversation with the private sector. I wonder what a partnership between the private sector and the chiefs would look like, right? Because private sector will come in, their business, they want profits. But I've also noticed that private sector has become increasingly more aware of their social responsibility, because they know that they want people who are thriving in order for their business to thrive. So how can you partner with them and then speak to young people so that young people see you working with the private sector and they see you as part of the solution to the challenges that they're experiencing rather than part of the challenge itself?
I agree with you, ma'am. And my thought is, you talk the different problems that you mentioned. The cause the breakdown of the family. Uh, for whatever reason, the family is no longer. It's the primary unit that I think any nation is built on. And what you're seeing generally in our society is the breakdown of that family. How do we come up with structures or initiatives that help the family remain strong? You talked about Moshoeshoe's first times, and you hear how the nation was formed and what was happening in our region at that point in time. It's maybe it's the same problems that we're going through now, but they were able to come together and build something out of that. I like to think maybe their families were stronger at that point in time, that they could work together to build amongst those difficult times they were facing at that point in time. But that's why I'm saying we need to build a family. We need to get back to that basic unit. Because I think if you can get that right, then you won't have a father raping their daughter. Uh, if there are no jobs, the family will come together and figure out a way of how do we make a living in this kind of environment. But also, it means there's more compassion. One of the things sometimes I see is the lack of compassion that we have amongst ourselves and for each other.
That's true. I just want to add on that one. In certain villages that are subordinate to my office, most of houses are headed by the youth due to HIV. So even if they can get education, they don't know how to start or how to run their life well. So they depend to the other extended family. So there is this tendency of jealousy or being that this one, the parents just lost, cannot be able to survive. So they are stuck there. And they even end up using the dangerous substances. Yes, or else they will be this early motherhood. That's their results. Then we have that problem. And also the what I have just observed that men, they are no more working in the mines, they are here at home. So lately the wife are the ones who going to South Africa looking for the jobs. So they left the young girls with their father. So I don't know what is happening with men, but they just going to force themselves to these young girls. So because they take it as because this young girl is the one who's running the family, doing the cooking, every household, they do every chores. So they think even in the bedroom they can do that. So that's the problem, and the GVB is very high because if this small girl can resist, is just going to get punished physically. That's the problem that I just observed. I think we have to talk to the government, especially the Ministry of Social Development, to hold a lot of pizzos in our village to teach these young boys and girls that they have to there's where they can get helped rather than staying there using abusing substances and being some of the young girls, they practice this prostitution very early stage because they need money to survive. That's where the problem is.
Because there's no food.
Yes. There's no
But
food.
May, I really hear what you're saying, and I think it's it's very difficult to hear, and this conversation is always difficult because you're talking about young girls, and you're talking about adult male,
Yes.
right? And something is broken. Something is broken in society to be where we are now in such situations. But I'm reminded that there was a chief in Malawi. Yes. She decided that in her area, she was going to have zero tolerance for child marriages and for GBV, but in particular, I think child marriages. And I think she single-handedly started going after any man who would marry a girl that is below the age of 16, right? Working with the other organizations to make sure that she took that child and went and sent them to school so that they could go and start their life again. So I think where my thoughts are is, what can the chiefs, I think in particular the principal chiefs, because you're sitting at the top of the pyramid, what can you do to challenge this in your own areas so that your own areas become a place of safety, right? Of course, you need support, but are you speaking about these things? Are you saying, young people in this area, come together, let's have a pizza. What do you need? Are you doing those things on a regular basis? I guess is my question. Maybe you are, but
Yeah, I wanted to say, Mayor, that um, how can traditional leadership use culture as a tool, really, to protect girls from abuse? Are the expectations clear for the community as well, that they're also accountable to their families?
Okay, I'm not sure. It's a difficult one. As Amanda says, something has broken in the system. So when you're talking about when Mufumari is talking about child-headed households, in the old system, there was no child-headed household because if my father died, my father's brother stepped in. So you will never, there will never be a child-headed household. There will never be a widow. The system said that everybody had a family structure that has broken down. So that those children whose parents have died, the extended family doesn't want anything to do with them, whereas the extended family was supposed to take them in. So it's a question of expectations. It's probably a question of resources, but it's also a question of remembering who we are. It's part of that whole culture thing that most people do, because we watch videos or are very much in the Western, the media is primarily a Western values based institution. Most of our children, that's what they learn. I always have a complaint on government that my people are quite rural. They'll do laws based on Western values to the detriment of my people, but maybe to the whatever of to me who's maybe more Western thinking or aligned or whatever. But that is the problem that you have, that for the most of us, we don't remember who we are. We don't know how our system used to work. We've agreed to rubbish it without understanding it because we are educated in a Western orientated manner. So it goes back, as I say, to building the units, to remembering who we are. Yes, some things might not work as well culturally as maybe the modern way works, but you're at a point now that you should be able to pick and choose what's good, what's bad. But we in a way are throwing out everything and trying to adopt something that's not ours, and I think that is really the basis of our problems. We are rudderless. Uh, Putting it back, yes.
Anyway, I'll just that this one of to me it's difficult because people, they have rights lately. When you say that they should come to your place and practice those things culturally, they start questioning. How can my young girl wear titana and there are boys clipping for her hair? No, they don't want that. Ma'am, Amanda, you asked us if we are trying to help the youth according to the in employment. I've tried myself. I tried small project on horticulture. I called the boys and the girls of the village, and then I just told them that I have a dream, and then I want you to implement it. But all what we are going to produce is going to be yours because I can see that you are just idling through, you are roaming around the village. It didn't end well because these girls and boys, they think agriculture is a punishment because they don't do it at school. So when you say that they are going to play with soil, they start complaining. It's hot. We fetch water from far. It's heavy to dig with this spade. Can you please hire a tractor so that we can make a plot out of that? They don't want to do it. I cancelled and I opted to their parents. It's working with the parents. Yeah, it's working with the parents. The youth, they only come when harvesting. They say they're going to help their mothers. That's when you will see them happy, smiling. When they see that there are a lot of vegetables they're going to collect. When they want to start from scratch, they don't. They don't want that. So it was only the project that I thought about because the other project, they need more money.
So how can we make agriculture farming more attractive for young people? Almost 70% of Basotho live in rural areas, right? So we can't run away from the fact that we need rural development, right? And the assets that are there in rural areas are land, water, right? So how can we make these assets work for rural communities and in particular for young people? I think that's part of the conversation I think that we need to have in terms of no, and this is where it's important for the chiefs to work very closely with the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Water, Energy, and I know that, for example, let me give you another example that I've seen in one of the countries where I traveled to. I think similar to what you're saying, that, young people didn't want to do the hard labor, kind of. But the community came together under a project and they developed solar-powered irrigation. Yeah, solar-powered irrigation. And so they would plow the field together, right? And the project anyway allowed them to use cattle and eventually, I think, to use a tractor when they were able to save enough money. So it was almost like a cooperative. They came together. They had a bit like the concept of a Tsimuholo, but this one wasn't necessarily owned by the chiefs. It was land that was that young people could use. And instead of keeping money in the home, they started taking money to the bank, right? And they started improving their houses. So they would all work on one house, and then they would work on another house. And slowly, they all upgraded, right? So I'm wondering whether those are some of the things that maybe don't require a lot of capital, but can take a long way. I mean, can take young people to a place of confidence and a place of self-esteem. How do we make farming attractive for young people?
If I can just say, what you're explaining is Litsima in Susutu, Amanda. That's
Oh,
exactly what needs to
Yes.
happen.
Litsema.
Yes, where people, you'd come together, you'd go all the fields of the village as a unit, and then you'd help each other harvest that unit. And out of that, there was more for everybody. Then, for whatever reason, Litsema is not as popular. We've become more individualistic in our outlook. Everybody's doing for their own. And I think as a result of that, we're worse off as a group. So it's part of why I say we need to learn how our forefathers lived. We need to bring back. But when you talk about how do we make agriculture more, I don't know, more sexy, if that's the right word. I think it's answering the question of self-sufficiency. There's a movement amongst a lot of people that they need to grow their own food. So what you're seeing is maybe a lot of the rural people are trying to go into towns and they are trying to get jobs, and you find a lot of the townspeople are going back into the rural area. There's that's sort of happening, and I think it's to get people to understand that everything you're doing to feed yourself. So you already have the land. It's what I try and keep telling my people. You already have the land. Use the land. But as Mem Punso says, it seems like you're giving them the wrong option. But I think it's also the schools. The schools say you're going to go to school, you're going to be whatever, and you're going to work in some office somewhere. So even at that level, we relegate agriculture. We don't make it a viable project, and I think from that basis alone, we it should be there in that curriculum that yes, you can go work in the office, but have a field. You
Yes.
don't need to
You can
buy
do
whatever.
both.
You need to know where your food comes from. It needs to be integrated, I think.
But it's also part of health, isn't it?
Yes.
Part
And
of health.
nutrition.
Yes.
Because if you know where your food is coming from, you're growing your own food. I mean, some of the food that we buy in,
You have no idea.
I'm not mentioning any shops, but sometimes you buy a chicken and you want to cook it. The amount of water that comes out of that chicken is shocking, right? But if you go and you buy your chickens from the women who have, then anyway, I'm very biased because I love like a kerane, so I love chickens from, especially the free range roaming ones that pick up worms and and eat them.
And the rest.
And the rests. Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you so much, Mepanso.
Yes, I was just adding on just what I've just said. We are pushing Amanda to these kids to know that they should grow their own food. I remember when in the district this year, we were talking about back to school. I said, okay, you're talking about toiletries and sanitaries. I said, it's okay, we'll donate that. But they should, I have some seed, I'll donate, and then we are going to make some plots on that school. We went to one of the primary school, we did that. I asked the principal, do you have a lesson for agriculture? It's not there in their curriculum. So we just plant some seedlings there. We don't know what's going to happen after we left. Maybe it's going to be used. Those who came late, you go and water those plants. And then they're going to start hating agriculture if they're going to be treated like that. So I'm just suggesting to my colleagues, the principal chief, if they are this back to school on their area, they should start practicing this also. We are just trying to push this nutrition thing.
So it goes back to that from the word go, children should be taught the importance of agriculture.
Yes.
We are taking it out of the curriculum as opposed to putting it into the curriculum.
So you're saying that, I guess my takeaway is it's not that you're saying let's leave everything and go back to traditional. I think what I'm hearing is we need to find those good practices in tradition that can walk side by side with technology, with digitalization, with new ways of thinking. And maybe we need to give young people the space to
say their views.
Yes, not just say their views, but if they're coming in and saying, this type of agriculture with a cow, because I can imagine even for me, guys, no, it's too much.
Yeah.
But maybe we can ask them, when you talk to them in a pizzo, what ideas do you have? What are your ideas? How do you think we can do this? There's no money. So what do we use what we have, right? And maybe they will come up with ideas that will surprise us, that are good. But I think, because we are talking, I'm talking to traditional leaders, one of the things I think that is really important in most of our cultures is this thing of the elderly, the hierarchy of, this one is a chief, this one is an order. But I think maybe we need to make space for young people to tell us that, no, you are wrong here. Yeah. I know that you think this will work, but I have heard that this works. Can we please try this? And then we support them to try their innovative idea. And then we see. I'm not saying we're necessarily wrong. I'm just saying maybe we need to give young people space for their voices to be meaningful,
I agree with you there, ma'am. And one of the things that I think is, as you say, it's important to create them that space for them to do things however they will do it and see whatever comes out of it. Nobody has the right answer per se on exactly how this will work and that doesn't work. It's one of the things I try and do is create environments where loners or those who are on the fringes can do things that everybody says is crazy. And then you find that, hey, that crazy guy was the guy that helped us. And that is exactly the same thing you're saying, is that we need to give them, there needs to be experimentation space. There needs to be things that they can do that we are thinking, no, you're going the wrong way, but we let them go because they might come back with something that we didn't see. And yes, let them have a more say in how things pan out.
And but you're always there on the
Yes.
sidelines, because we don't want any young person to fall off the cliff or fall off the edges. But at the same time, honestly, you just have to think back to when you were young and the ideas that you had and the restrictions around your ability to do that. Sometimes, I don't know if you ever look back, but I look back and I think I used to be a very fast sprinter at school. I really used to be very fast. And if my parents had just said, okay, maybe you can explore this, maybe now I would be a millionaire.
Exactly.
Maybe
The world should be known by you.
maybe I would have been Usain Bolt.
Yes.
But they said, no.
going to get
Sport,
damaged.
this doesn't, no, they said it doesn't put food on your table, But this is going back a long time. But now I look at my mother and I say, so, and she says, I'm sorry, So anyway, it sounds like a funny story, but what I'm saying is that we have more young people than elderly people. It's their world. We live together. They need the space to try things. And some of those things are things that, are counterintuitive for us. So, and I know we've started talking a lot about young people, but I think that because the chiefs are custodians of traditions and culture, right? And some of those norms and traditions are the ones that hold back young people. I think the chiefs themselves also need to be open to change that is helpful. That's
Yeah, very interesting. And just to wrap up the conversation, I just want to say that like leadership, I think ultimately is measured by what it leaves behind. So, and as Mamanda, you said, chiefs as custodians of traditions, what legacy would you want sort of the traditional leadership of Lesotho to have or leave in this country?
Mimpunsu will answer it.
we know what King Moshoeshoe the first left behind.
Yes. What are you going to leave behind?
Difficult one, I was doing. But as I say, I believe chiefs are supposed to talk truth to power, so be truthful to whatever the cause is. I believe they're supposed to be fair to all the people or all situations. They're supposed to be enablers. In doing that, I think then they get the environment right that anybody can shine in whatever manner that they shine. So if we get the culture or the environment right, hopefully because of that base, everybody can shine however they shine. And I think the primary role of chiefs is to keep the cohesion of society together, so that things can happen. So right now you find that we are trying to make things happen, which probably is I sometimes say it's problematic that we are now trying to do things, whereas we should just be trying to make sure that there's cohesion and the level ground is level, that whoever comes up is able to do that thing. I think, yeah, I think that is the way I think about it.
That's why I said we should talk.
I think that's really very inspiring.
Yes.
Actually, that keeping the social cohesion. It's almost like making sure that the foundations remain strong.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that when government, when private sector, civil society come in to come and support work, they find that the ground is fertile
Yes.
for. Wow, it's yeah. And as the UN, I think we are always ready to partner with the chieftainship structures to keep that foundation solid. And I just want to say thank you very much for all the support that you've given me, for welcoming me into your inner sanctuary as chiefs. I have really appreciated it, and I leave Lesotho a much better person than when I first came here. Ke a leboha haholo bomme, ntate. Thank you so much.
It's for you, as a head.
No, Amanda, no, we are also very thankful, Garnete, for the role that you've played and helped us have dialogues. You are one of the people that has helped resource us a lot, and we are very grateful for that, and for your belief that chieftainship has a role to play. I think more and more we are being told that you're part of the old system. You're no longer important, new ways of doing things. And as you say, it's about merging the old with the new to find a better path. And we're really grateful for the support you've given us, and where you're going. They're lucky to have you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I think we've had a really rich discussion with our traditional leaders and the UNRC. Thank you for, tuning in. Look out for the next episode. Thank you so much. Until next time.